some type of screen up of something. Hit it with this. Merry Christmas. I am ThreePlusKei. I'm here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. And this space right here is called the Secret Heart Club. And it's all Christians and Christ curious to come together in community. Hey, Scott, there's a little theme song, and I have this bell. Sing along with me. Welcome to the Secret Heart Club. Everyone does their part to bring love, be loved. We love Jesus at the Secret Heart Club. Bow. Merry Christmas, Scott. I was a little late today. I told you guys yesterday that I need to be done eating by 7, and so today was like the test run. And I was done eating by 7:15, so we're getting there. We are doing Bible Roulette today, which means we pick a random part of the Bible and we go over it. Usually I have you guys decide. But today, because we have such a short period of time, I'll tell you, in my own personal Bible studies, I started Nahum because I had brought the book of Nahum up about a week ago, saying, I haven't read it. And it's one of those arbitrary books of the Bible. Like, when was the last time you were like, yeah, bro, I was just in Nahum and applied it to my life doing this, that, and the other? So today, to encourage you guys to start your own Bible studies, or maybe just go over something you don't know. Hey, Butterfly and Caroline. So yeah, and I have only read through half of the introduction, so we'll just go over that, and then if you guys want to go on with Nahum, go on and do it. Thanks, Carolina. All right, so here we go. The book of Nahum. The title, the book's title is taken from the prophet of God's oracle against Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. If you guys remember Nineveh from Jonah and the fish, part of how he got into that fish in the first place, the Lord had sent him to Nineveh because they were sinning in such a hardcore fashion. And he was like, y'all, God says stop it. And they were like, no. And then he got upset with Nineveh. So that's kind of that. Thanks, Jabrower. Carolina says, God bless you and have the best Merry Christmas Eve ever. Amen. In Jesus' name. You as well. Thank you. All right. So the book's title, this is Nahum, is taken from the prophet of God's oracle against Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. Nahum means comfort or consolation, and is a short form of Nehemiah. Comfort of Yahweh. Nahum is not quoted in the New Testament, although there may be an allusion to Nahum 1:15 and Romans 10:15. The author and the date. Who the heck is Nahum? Author and date. The significance of the writing prophets was not their personal lives, it was their message. What they had to say, what message they were delivering from the Lord, which was always, y'all need to knock it off. That's what it's always going to be, their message. They're prophets. If you don't knock it off, something's going to happen. All of them. Nahum was such a dude. Occasionally, one of the historical books will shed additional light. In the case of Nahum, nothing is provided except that he was an Elkoshite. An Elkoshite, referring either to his birthplace or his place of ministry. Attempts to identify the location of Elkosh have been unsuccessful. We don't know where it is. Suggestions include Al-Kosh, situated in northern Iraq. Thus, Nahum would have been a descendant of the exiles taken to Israel in 722 BC. Capernaum, which is the town of Nahum, or a location in southern Judah. His birthplace or locale is not significant to the interpretation of the book. Again, why the writing prophets? We are learning about the specific message that the Lord gave to them and the specific, to address the specific sins of the people they were sent to tell. So we don't really need to know. It's kind of like, y'all remember, I don't know how old y'all are, but there was a time, not to get political, but there was a time when you didn't know your teacher's first name. Like, you would find it out and it would be this magical revelation. Your teacher in school. You know what I mean? You definitely didn't know where your teacher lived. You didn't know really anything about them besides general details. Now, you know these kids are out here calling teachers by their first names. I won't get into it. So similar with the prophets that we have in the Old Testament, we really don't need to know all this about you, my guy, because the focus should be and is on the message that you were sent to deliver. With no mention of any kings in the introduction, the date of Nahum's prophecy must be implied by historical data. The message of judgment against Nineveh portrays a nation of strength, intimating a time not only prior to her fall in 612 BC, but probably before the death of, you ready to struggle read? We're going to struggle read through this, okay? Ashurbanipal. That is so, that you hear my Midwestern accent. Ashurbanipal. That sounds better. The message of judgment against Nineveh portrays a nation of strength, intimating a time not only prior to her fall in 612 BC, but probably before the death of Ashurbanipal in 626 BC, after which Assyria's power fell rapidly. Nahum's mention of the fall of Noaman, also called Thebes, in 663 BC at the hands of Ashurbanipal appears to be fresh in their minds, and there is no mention of the rekindling that occurred 10 years later, suggesting a mid-7th century BC date during the reign of Manasseh. Okay, little background and setting. Scott says, well, they are all being kids. Oh, about the teachers? No, I mean like teachers, like if I was a teacher, I would be like, actually, when I was teaching, I went by, you guys might, this is an aside, you might find this funny. I went by Miss Key, and there was a little girl named Emily, and she was 5 years old. and she couldn't pronounce my name. So it came as like McKee, and then she started calling me Monkey. So she ended up calling me Monkey. So that's how I landed on Miss Lakeitha. That's how I got to Miss Lakeitha. You know, she didn't mean it, but, you know, had to figure it out. Raymond says, hi, Raymond. This is 2025. Let's move forward. Man wrote that fiction work. You know, I heard something pretty great today. And it was actually from an unbeliever. It was an unbeliever who had said it. And they were just saying, like, you know, we're all allowed to believe what we want to believe without criticizing one another so much. And it's very true, you know. So, you know, if you want to move forward, go ahead and move forward. If man wrote that fiction work and that's a core belief of yours, then that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. But let me just say this one last part. These words that are written, let's move forward, man wrote that fiction work, is not in any way compelling me to do so. You just came to insult. So I would say if there's ever anything any of us, right, like spreading the gospel, that we want to do, we should learn the art of being winsome, and we should learn our craft in speech. So Christians evangelize and prayerfully, hopefully, study communication. And so I would say you too, atheist, agnostic, whatever you might be, that you too go about that way, because your words, I'm not, it wasn't convincing at all. And so for that, I will continue with what I was saying. Background and setting for the book of Nahum. A century after Nineveh repented, we just talked about this. A century after Nineveh repented at the preaching of Jonah, she returned to idolatry, violence, and arrogance. Assyria was at the recovered from Sennacherib's defeat, 701 BC, at Jerusalem. Her borders extended all the way into Egypt. Read some more. Esarhaddon had recently transplanted conquered peoples into Samaria and Galilee in 670 BC, leaving Syria and Palestine very weak. But God brought Nineveh down under the rising power of Babylon's king, Nabopolassar, and his son, Nebuchadnezzar. I don't know why Nebuchadnezzar just kind of rolls off the... Give it a little try. Y'all who are listening, Nebuchadnezzar. You could even... Nebuchadnezzar. You know. Feels like there might be a Nebuchadnezzar. It sounds like something you might even pop out and say to somebody. Like, you're not here? Nebuchadnezzar. All right. You know, in the words of Ray here, let's move forward. Assyria's demise turned out just as God had prophesied. Historical and theological themes. Nahum forms a sequel to the book of Jonah, who prophesied over a century earlier. Jonah recounts the remission of God's promised judgment toward Nineveh, while Nahum depicts the later execution of God's judgment. Nineveh was proud of her invulnerable city, with her walls reaching 100 feet high and with a moat 150 feet wide and 60 feet deep, but Nahum established the fact that the sovereign God would bring vengeance upon those who violated his law, because Jonah already told y'all. And now here comes Nahum telling you the same thing. The same God had a retributive judgment against evil, which is also redemptive, bestowing his loving kindness upon the faithful. The prophecy brought comfort to Judah. Remember, Nahum means comfort or consolation. The prophecy brought comfort to Judah and all who feared the cruel Assyrians. Nahum and Nineveh would end with an overflowing flood, and it happened when the Tigris River overflowed to destroy enough of the walls to let the Babylonians through. Nahum also predicted that the city would be hidden. After its destruction in 612 BC, the site was not rediscovered until AD 1842, because we have to remember, and I forgot what the exact number is, but it's something like, but somewhere between 65 and 75% of the Bible's contents are verifiable from an archaeological standpoint. So if we had a destruction of a city, Nineveh, at 612 BC, and then boom, it wasn't discovered again because it was buried per the prophecy. It was discovered in 1842. That means 2,300 years went by. Brothers and sisters of Christ, you should find that encouraging. So if 65% of the Bible has been verified by archaeological finds, on a larger end, that means 35% of what's in the Bible we don't know for certain, by science standards. 35% of the Bible we don't know for sure by science standards, but 65% we do. And this little bit, Nineveh, after Nahum, who recorded all of this, said Nineveh would be Nineveh would be hidden, and then it was in 612 BC, and then 2,300 years later, here's your archaeological proof, in 1842. Be encouraged. The rest is on its way. Hold faith for right now, but be encouraged. The rest will be scientifically proven. This is for my brothers and sisters in Christ. You know why? I don't know why there's all this debate between science and theology. Because we serve a God that created everything, including all of the science. All of it. So I believe in science too. You know what I'm saying? You can't, no, don't let me. You can't believe in science without believing in Jesus Christ. I said what I said. Interpretive challenges. Apart from the uncertain identity of Elkosh, because we don't know where Elkosh was. That's one thing we don't know. Ain't nobody found it. We don't know. But that's where it was. Apart from the uncertain identity of Elkosh, the prophecy presents no real interpretive difficulties. The book is a straightforward prophetic announcement of judgment against Assyria and her capital Nineveh for cruel atrocities and idolatrous practices. So that's what I'm reading. I'm gonna wrap this up, but let me know what y'all are, what are you dipping and dabbling into? I got the book of Nahum, Next Monday, we'll continue on with the Bible study of Ecclesiastes. I believe Ecclesiastes 6 will air. Today, check it out. Entering the chat, what do you think about Jesus? Oh no, that aired yesterday. With my friend Jessica, who spent a lot of time in prison, found her way to Jesus. I'm gonna just give you a brief story about what she's got going on because it's incredible. So she was sentenced to prison for like the third or the second time. She was so violent, which I never knew that about her. I didn't know that about her. She was so violent in prison, they segregated her and they had put her in a room or a cell with a mattress, a sheet, and a Bible. She ignored that Bible. Eventually she came upon Philippians 4. Read it again and again and again and again. Dedicated her life to the Lord in that cell in segregation. It didn't end there. She said, Lord, if you release me from this prison, I will do nothing but work in favor to glorify your name. She was released from prison under the name Jessica Colton. That's her name. Not too long after that, she was picked up under Jessica Colton, taken to jail, charged, sentenced, put back in prison. What's the issue? It was a different Jessica Colton. I believe she didn't do it because she tells her story otherwise. So anyway, she's back in prison, and if that was me, I might have turned my back on the Lord, because I would have been like, Lord, I said, you know, if you get me out of here, I'm going to do good. And then the Lord, under a false arrest, puts you back in prison. I would have been like, well, I give up. Not her. So she strengthened her faith. They figured out it was a mistake. She was released and has dedicated her life to helping formerly incarcerated individuals seek recovery from their addictions. And that's her story. So check it out on my page. It is season 1, episode 7. She's the founder of Inside Out, a nonprofit. All right. I'm 3+Kei. I'm here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. We're here every night. Well, at 7, but hear me out. I gotta finish eating by 7, so the time might change. But hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and I'll talk to you guys later.